Let's get back into some
Thank
more
you.
positive stuff. Let's talk about Nebraska, Ohio State with our good friend Ben Aude from the BA Coaches Show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
You know what?
I've been better, Ben.
Yeah. It's not Victory Monday on the show across the board.
Nope.
So,
except for one guy in here for his NFL team. That's it.
Hey, just be happy about it, okay? Because we were just a couple more swing passes and screens away from winning. So I think if we just ran a few more of those, we'd be in a really good place today.
All right, let's start there. I think the screen pass is a low-hanging fruit, but we will get to it. But let me start here. So, I want to know what Nebraska saw that they could win the perimeter against Ohio State, that they would run those screens. But I think it goes deeper, Ben. Why was Nebraska successful when they would run three wide? They didn't run as many, 3-by-1, but when they ran three wide, they were more successful than anything they tried out of the bunch set. Did you see the same thing as you watched it live and then watched it on the rewind?
I did see that. Overall, I felt a little bit better about the offense as a whole. I felt better about some of the run game. I can't quite put my finger on exactly why. And this is something I kind of have talked about with some guys of like how I really feel about this game. I know this is such a cop-out answer, but like I think I'll really know how I feel about the Ohio State game like next Saturday night, right? After I
That's
see
fair.
like
that's fair, and that's
how
I'm with you on that.
I guess. Like I saw a lot of things that I liked, honestly, on all three sides, even on offense, and we did have some success doing things. And I think in some ways we took advantage of some things that Ohio State, was giving us. But at the same time, I'm like, I just want to see it next week. I want to see if this is what gets the ball rolling, if that makes sense. Because I feel like we've seen this program as a whole, take a lot of steps forward in the past, and it just not been able to, keep that momentum going. So, I really feel like we did some good things offensively, despite my, some jokes about some of the screens and swings and whatnot. But man, I feel like we're right there, but I really just want to see how we end up looking in a week.
I want to bring something up. I mentioned this to Gary earlier of watching the first drive of the second half, that the two run plays that Dylan goes under center, they give you positive results. I think 5 and 7, if I remember correctly.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And if you watch from Ben Scott onto the left side, there just seemed to be more of a push. The engagement right there was a lot more noticeable than when you saw even the 15-yard run that Dante Dowdell has out of the shotgun on the same drive. Is this something that Nebraska just shows to show, or do you think there is more of an effort, as Marcus Satterfield said last week, of the mindset of being able to run the football, that you're going to see it phased in more and more where Dylan is under center? Because it's hard not to notice how the offensive line and the initial surge is just something as simple as him under center.
That's a really good question. I very much hope this is something that we're going to continue doing going forward. I think it is. I hope it is. After, that lovely press conference, that's now must-see TV on Tuesdays. I hope this is something we see going forward, just because running under center is something in the Big Ten I feel like you would just absolutely need to do. And just from a, schematic standpoint, it is so much, I don't want to say easier, but it's just a different dynamic, being able to get a vertical push. In your inside run game, you've got to be able to get this vertical push. And we were seeing that being under center. It gets your running backs able to get a full head of steam as opposed to running out of the shotgun. Like when he's getting that ball, that running back is coming full head of steam, vertical push by our offensive line. Like, I'm not saying that running out of the shotgun isn't a thing that we should be able to do. Like, obviously we should, but I just feel like in the Big Ten, being able to get under center, play some big boy football, get a good push up front, hand the ball off. It's something you just got to be able to do. And I'm glad that after 19, 20 games, Satterfield has realized that that's something we need to do. And I hope it sticks around for a while, because I agree. I thought our run game looks better under center.
Is Dylan Raiola making progress?
I think it's a tough question right now, because I don't think he's playing great, right? For the last few games. I don't think that's breaking news. Gary, I heard something that you said on your podcast, the Average Joe Sports Show, I think it's called. Look at me pulling that out of my head. But
yes,
I think it would be interesting to know if at the end of the season, that's something we would never hear until the very end. But if something's bothering, I don't have any sort of inside it's all speculation, but something has just seemed off. The mechanics have seemed off for the last few weeks. The throwing motion just seemed a little bit off. We're not really wanting to push the ball down the field that well. So it's just kind of interesting. I don't know, because I like to kind of fall on the fact that, he's a 18, 19-year-old kid, but at the same time, like, we're 8 games in, and I feel like we're still kind of in the same spot as we have been for the last few weeks.
And he's taken a beating. And I said that because it's almost like that comes out in February of, he was battling a shoulder injury or ankle, because the other thing that is not normal for him that was really good at the beginning is his footwork has gotten really poor. And I don't know if that's because the game is sped up or there's something else he's trying to make up for. He looks clunky. And I know that's not him.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. In coming into college, if there was one thing that you would kind of pinpoint to, like, he obviously super talented. This is kind of nitpicky, but it's like the one thing that you would say that he really needed to improve on getting to the college game were his footwork and his eyes, right? Mm-hmm. And as the game, I feel like going against some pretty good Big Ten defenses, really well coached, I feel like we're seeing more of, as the game kind of speeds up, you're seeing a little bit more, hey, this kid still, needs to work on his footwork and his eye discipline. And I don't know. Again, I know we're 8 games in, but he's still, he's still young. And if there is something bothering him, I don't know. I think that's a good point. And yeah, like I said, I think if there was something coming in that he needed to, improve through college coaching, it was going to be his footwork and discipline. And I think as we're getting deeper into the schedule against some really good teams, those are just kind of exposing itself a little bit more, if that makes sense.
Okay, so with that, Ben, we saw more of the run game of him, or whether it was designed, whether it was on his own instincts, whatever it was. My question is, he took – this was one of my favorite things about that first drive against Colorado, is where there was a third down, and he didn't hesitate. He found a little bit of a lane. He got there, got the first down, kept that drive going. Then we know what happened after that. It was game on. It was blowout on, all that stuff. We saw him have a little bit more of that sense of urgency to use it if it was there. 2 questions. One, is that just Dylan instincts or an emphasis during the week as they're preparing of, hey, don't be afraid to take off? And the second part of the question is, where has that been between the Colorado game and the Ohio State game?
Okay, so to answer your first part of your question, yes, I think it is instinct, just because I don't think that I don't think it's kind of like a Harburg situation where they're teaching him to go, right, 1 read, 2 read, maybe a 3rd read, and then take off. I think it's more of a, hey, they've got no one spying on me. Hey, they're in man coverage. The only one looking at me is 20 yards down the field, covering a deep pass. So I'm going to take what I can get. So I think that's instinctually. The second part to your question of where do I think this has been? I'm not quite sure. I would love to see, I guess, a little bit more of this.
Yeah.
Because you think, like, I don't know, like Rutgers in Indiana, they ran a lot of man against us. So theoretically, you might have some stuff like that. But I also feel like, I mean, obviously, when you're taking off scrambling and running, I know your offensive line doesn't play a huge part into that. But at the same time, like, if we're not holding up well on the edges necessarily, you're not going to be able to do a great job, getting that scramble, especially if your footwork's not the best. And I'm not, trying to take shots. I'm just saying, like, those are just some things of, hey, if you're slowed down by a little bit, you might not be able. I think part of it schematically, and again, I think last week against Indiana, obviously during that game, there some ankle things, so maybe that's what's been going on. But so I don't really know, but I do think it is an instinctual thing of, I don't think they're necessarily coaching that in. I'm like, hey, this week we're gonna have you run a little bit more. Hey, if it's there, take it. I think that's probably there every week. Just I feel like if it was being coached, we would have saw that more last week against Indiana, and we just didn't see it.
Yeah, that he's one to watch in the full off season with strength and conditioning, and also working on just the mechanics of playing quarterback and the knowledge of what he's going through this year. Sticking with that, so this is also, and you and I have talked, hampered by not having that big time running back or an NFL wide receiver. So tough to be a pro-style quarterback when you don't have that element. And then I want to throw this in here, and I want you to sift through this for our audience. So Jordan Hancock is the defensive back that picks off the pass to end the game. And then after the game, one of the Ohio State reporters asked him to go through the play. And this is what he said. Quote, "It's a relief for sure. The defense was out there fighting. I saw they were repeating older routes. After watching film, I noticed what they were doing, and I didn't really get depth on the post, so I stayed there. The ball felt like it took 20 seconds to get to me, even though it was only 2 seconds. But overall, it was awesome." When you know what Nebraska is up against offensively and what they're trying to do, and then you hear an opposing defensive back, and this isn't new. Nebraska talked about what they were seeing with Colorado after the game. But when you hear this after Saturday, what is your response or reaction?
My response, I don't love hearing that, obviously. I don't think it's absolutely that uncommon, but when you're going against a team as well coached and with as many resources and as Ohio State's going to end up being, obviously their players are going to be really smart and well coached up to be able to recognize that sort of thing. So I definitely don't love that, especially with some of the game on the line. I feel like you should probably have some things on your call sheet that are not necessarily new, but give it new sorts of looks on how we're going to make a drive down the field. And, from the Ohio State side, I mean, hey, like I said, they're going to be really well coached up. And when that kid made the comment about it being, feeling way slower to him, what did he say, like 20 seconds, even though it was 2, that's just a result of how well coached they are and how slowed down the game is for them. I don't think for our offense, the game is slowed down for us at all. I feel like that's just a big difference. And you can tell of, I guess, the experience and coaching level, the difference between, I guess, Nebraska's offense and Ohio State's defense. I feel like just because if they're able to have the game feel that much slowed to them. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm watching Nebraska's offense, I definitely don't think the game is slowed down for them at all.
Gary and I were talking about this on Saturday. I don't want to continue to single him out, but he was supposed to have a bigger impact on this offense, and unfortunately he's been MIA in a lot of the season in big spots of a game when it comes to being a target, but also now the perimeter blocking. Jamal Banks, what he provides right now, and I want to get your opinion of, because this is what Gary and I were talking about, is effort versus technique or both when it comes to inability to just make a block on the perimeter. And then maybe the bigger question is why continue to go that route and in that direction where 4 has to make a block?
Yeah, that's where I have been perplexed by this whole situation is just, I think a lot of it is effort. I know, I just feel like he has the body type to be a very good perimeter blocker. What has, I guess, I've been struggling with is it's not like he has been such a threat throwing the ball that we need to have him out there so they have the threat of it. Like if he's a guy that's just, absolutely out there dominating,
right,
then hey, it makes sense to keep him out there. And even if he's not necessarily going to be a great threat on the perimeter blocking, they at least got to account for him. It's not like he's been that great, if that makes sense. Like he's been good, don't get me wrong, but it's not like he's dominating the game to where the fact that they need to account for him at all times. So I do think it's an effort thing, and just the perimeter blocking is something that I have been struggling with, and it's something, I mean, just kind of rewind a bit. I feel like a lot of things, kind of got said last Tuesday have just kind of made me raise my eyebrows a bit of being like, hey, man, if we know our perimeter blocking isn't good and we're all acknowledging it, doesn't take a genius to look at the game and figure that out. But now that we're acknowledging publicly that the perimeter blocking isn't good, what are we going to do about it? And I know they're working on it in practice. I understand that they're a Division I program. But it's like, hey, if we have guys in the game taking in-game reps that are not blocking, whether it's effort, whether it's technique, I tend to think it's effort, but I could be completely wrong. I'm just speculating on that, I guess, just from what I'm seeing looking at the game. Why are they in the game? I'll give a shout out to these guys. Hey, it should be no block, no rock. That's something I've instilled in any wide receivers or running backs that I've coached. No block, no rock. But the other thing I'm just trying to figure out is like, why are we still trying to put them in positions why are we running, these plays that require perimeter blocking from guys that have not shown the ability on tape to make good, consistent perimeter blocks. I'm trying to figure that out. I just feel like we have to have some. I know we have people in that room that, will come out there and block. And if we have to, I guess, limit some of our, deep threats, but we're not pushing the ball down the field anyway right now. That's kind of my thing, is we're not really pushing the ball down the field anyway now. So why are we so insistent on, I guess, having these guys in there that aren't making the perimeter blocks? It's something that's bothered me for the last few weeks of just, we know the perimeter blocking isn't good. What are we doing about it beside, we're going to work on it in practice? Because clearly something's not clicking there.
Yep.
So what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, there's a want to, there's a pride. There's also a want to run the officials out of the Big Ten. You only get to pick one. See, we waited until this. We waited until 8:15 to talk about the officiating.
Very
we could have started this morning with officiating and just let everybody burn because it was bad. You only get to pick one. What was the most egregious call from Saturday, in your opinion?
The missed spot on what should have been a first down by a full yard, 2 yards. That's mind-blowing to me. I understand that during the game, obviously, like, Matt Rule's not going to notice that. All he sees is, hey, it's fourth down, or third, whatever it was. Third down, I can't remember what down it was off the top of my head, but hey, we got to get going. We got to get a first down, right? But for no one in the replay booth to signal down or anything, what's the point of them being there? If you look at it earlier in the game when they needed to review something later in the game, it was very instantly, as soon as that ball hits the ground, within 5 seconds, they're signaling down there that, they need to review this. That spot not even being reviewed whatsoever. When I went back and looked at that play again, I do think that that referee thought Lutovsky had.
Yeah.
That is mind-blowing.
Which is even, exactly. That is more crazy, the fact that he thought the offensive lineman was the ball carrier. This isn't the Chicago Bears trying to score from the 1 yard line.
Yeah,
sorry, I had to throw that.
That blows my mind. And I don't think Matt Rule noticed this in the moment, because I feel like he would have had a bigger meltdown. I'll just tell you, if I would have noticed that and I was on the sideline in the morning, I'd have to be calling some people to probably bail me out of jail today, because that was real bad.
Yeah, well, there's also a spot of a Jalen Lloyd play that they missed on a yard, and they missed.
Yeah, 100%. That was just the one off the top of my head. I just couldn't figure out.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. That one is awful. That is. Hey, they spent all this money on this review center in Chicago. How come they're not in stadium? That's pretty easy, just to go to buzz down and go, hey, we're going to look at the spot because it's off by 3 yards. Oh, by the way, it's impacting the game because the clock is still running.
Yep.
All right, where can people get your content and your angst and your positivity going in the month of November this week?
You can go to YouTube, go to the BA Coaches Show. We got next episode covering Ohio State coming out first thing tomorrow morning. You go to nbnrpodcast.com. You can check out the blog, Red Zone Reflections, or if you also want to check out my video content or just a whole bunch of Husker content, go to characterchronicles.com. You guys obviously know him. He's got a whole bunch of Husker content on that website, and that's where you can find the BA Coaches Show.
Yep. Hey, good talking to you, Ben. Thank you for trying to walk us through all this.
Hey, you guys as well. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, because I feel good about the month of November.
Hey, grab your bowl destination. It's going to happen.
See you in New York.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
Yep.